Hello. Okay, so yeah. This is what happens with wavy hair at 4 a.m. Oh, it's almost 5. I'm running late. I need to hurry. I don't know. I was like, I don't really want to be eating. I know I should be eating less bread because I'm better off when I don't eat so much bread. But then the problem is, I do love bread sometimes. So this is what I do have because I froze it. I have the Beyond Burger meat, but I decided that I need to make my lunch. Oh, I'm gonna clean up this area. I wanted to look more presentable, you know. Clean up the area. Okay. So, I have my bread that I toasted. Take it off this plate. I'm gonna put into the Sammy bread right here. And I still have, I'm gonna get a clean spoon. I think I put my spoons away last night. Okay. I decided I have to start making my lunch. Like, I just have to do it. No more excuses about it. I don't think I want this one too wet, so I'm just gonna use the remnants of the avocado and this avocado to make the sandwich. Like, I really wanted to make a salad, but I just never got around to making a salad last night. And before I keep going, I need to put my bread away because it feels like heresy if I leave my bread out. Sourdough, I really actually like it. It's because the ingredients are not too bad for like sourdough. It's pretty basic. Like, it's just wheat flour, malted barley flour, niacin. I mean, it's not perfect, but for a sourdough, it's like more basic. And this one is GMO free, so if you're ever looking, I found this one at Food for Less, which is the California version of Kroger. And I hadn't been to Food for Less in a while, and they actually do have really good deals. And I have to say, oh my gosh, the one thing that made me really excited was on the GoFetch app. I got like 5,000 points because they were doing a Beyond Meat special right now. So if you have like the Fetch app for your receipts, you should. Definitely use it. But 2,000 points, buddy. I never get that lucky. Like, I love it when I hit gold and I buy something and it was on sale for $1.50. You know, I know all the meat eaters are like, well, I get lots of meat for $1. I'm like, yeah, but I don't eat meat. Yeah, so if you are vegetarian, vegan, or just plant curious, like, Food for Less has some deals on Beyond Meat, and I'm like $1.50, like, for a package. It came with 2 patties. They're kind of falling apart patties, but you know, it's more the burger texture one, so I don't even fry it or anything. It's got a lot of fat in it anyway, so if that's your grape jelly jam, I actually don't mind. You could just, you know, leave it as is, and I use some of the sauce to kind of flavor it. And I'm gonna get a tomato on, I think. So we have some I don't add extra salt. No. Some people, like, they put more salt in their food, and I'm just like, it's salty to begin with. How much salt do you need in your life, buddies? How much? I say less is more when it comes to world of salt, but that's just my grape jelly jam opinion. Less salt is better. But, you know, in our salt excited world, I guess I'm a minority. I'm thinking this. And I have lots of salad stuff to make a salad. I think I want to make another grapefruit. Istanbul, not Constantinople. Istanbul, not Constant. I'm so obsessed with that song. And reading more about, you know, the history of the Ottoman Empire, so why not? There's a lot of specific xenophobia towards Turks, which kind of bothers me. Okay, so I find it funny with European people, okay? And I'm not trying, like, I'm not getting down on Greek people, because I know there's a lot of Greek people and Turkish people that are friends. But, okay, there'll be people that, they love Japanese culture, and they're like, well, you know, past is past, we should, like, hold what the Japanese did in the past against them. But some people, okay, even though the Ottoman Empire was actually very tolerant compared to other empires throughout the history, a large number of the people in the Ottoman Empire were Christian. Yes, they did have some deplorable practices in their empire, but in general, they were much more tolerant than the Roman Empire, more tolerant than the British Empire. But I don't know, like, there's some Europeans, like, if you say anything positive about the Ottoman Empire, they have kind of xenophobic views on it. Like, they'll say things like, well, look what the Ottomans did to the Greeks, but then they haven't researched the history of the Ottoman Empire, and a lot of people in Western Turkey are Serbian and Greek origin, and so were the sultans. That's embarrassing. Plus, Anatolians and Greek people genetically are the same, so you guys are just fighting over religious differences in an old empire, but yet, I don't know. It just goes back to this thing that anything that's European-based, people have a stronger feeling for. Because look, I think what's happening in the Ukraine is really horrible right now, but I thought about it. I was up at night in 2016 when I saw all those things happening in Syria and being part Syrian. Like, it hurt my heart so much, but I never remember people feeling the same way about Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan, or even if Taiwan are invaded, they just don't feel the same way about an Asian country as they do about a European one. I don't know. I guess because I'm mixed European, Middle Eastern, I kind of can see both sides of it, but I just always think that's interesting. Like, why? Why is that? I don't know. It's just one of those kind of hypocrisies of history. You're like, okay, so European people or American people of European origin tend to care more about a European country, or like they hold animosities towards something that happened to a European people, even though like Turks are European too. Because part of Turkey's in Europe. But what it is like, okay, but if it's detached from them, like if something happened to another nation, they'll be like, well, we should forgive that. I want to tell you right now, if you're Greek and you're still hating Turkish people, that's xenophobia. Get over it. If you're Turkish and you still hate Greek people, get over it. You guys need to go be, like, get over it, get over it, get over it, okay? Past is past. Get over. Get over. Get over it, like, in lightning speed. And if you're, like, still upset with the Japanese or anybody in the past, and look, here's another thing. This is going to kind of throw you for the loop-de-loop. I don't like what Putin's doing, but I don't have anything against Russian people. Like, some people hate Russians now, and that's gross. Like, I found out, somebody told me, and I looked it up, that Russian restaurants are being, like, boycotted in the U.S. because of what's going on in Russia, even though a lot of Russian people don't agree with Putin. But here's the problem. If you look at what's happening in Russia, they're not even allowed to say the word war or really protest, and the few people that mildly protest get fined. So you can't even really speak out against Putin. So I don't have anything against the Russian people. My feeling is, I feel bad that the Russian people have had so many autocratic rulers, and I think people get too much on any xenophobia train, and I don't like xenophobia of any kind. Like, when you start saying, well, these people are like that, and you can't look at any of the good that the people did. People are both good and bad. Just because you're from one culture and another culture may have done something to your people at one time, that doesn't mean that you should hate those people forever. I think we all need to admit that we're more ethnically mixed. We're all ethnically mixed. Very few people are like 100% one thing. And even if they are, people intermingled. Like, in the Ottoman Empire, it was probably the most diverse empire, actually. African, European, Middle Eastern, Central Asian people are all represented in Turkey today, because the Ottoman Empire, even though there were things like the slave trade that were really horrible at that time, like, I don't think that part's good, but one of the weird things about the Ottomans is it was a meritocracy. So even, like, some of the people that were enslaved, they end up becoming like the Grand Vizier, which is like the second most powerful person in the Ottoman Empire. It's weird. It's not, I wouldn't want to live in that time period, but I'm just saying comparatively, like, compared to the Romans that would, I don't know, feed you to the lions or something for believing in one god as opposed to their pantheon of gods, I would say the Ottomans were much more humane. Like, actually, when the Jewish people were being expelled from Spain during the Spanish Inquisition, the Ottoman Sultan, Suleiman, welcomed Jewish merchants to come live in the Ottoman Empire. So if you want to hate on an empire because of, there were bad things that happened. Towards the end of the Ottoman Empire, there was a really horrible policy of ethnic cleansing and genocide towards the Armenians. And that cannot be excused, but I think some people have judged the entire history of the Ottoman Empire on that one event, but it wasn't always like that, and that was more about the politics of a secularized Ottoman Empire that was actually going away and becoming the Young Turks. And if you're upset with anybody, you should be upset with Ataturk, because that was a horrible policy, you know. But I don't think that's reflective of, like, Suleiman the Magnificent. Not everybody that came after him was the best, but if you study history, he was a very fair and just leader. I'm not saying everything he did was great, but he reigned from 1520 to 1566, very comparable to Queen Elizabeth of England, really. He was an enlightened ruler, but people won't give him that credit in a European-centric viewpoint. I'm just glad, I guess. Well, first off, having been a history major, and also, like, maybe because I'm a little bit bicultural in a way, I'm able to look past these animosities that people have. People have animosities towards other people just because of where they came from and what their ethnicity is and who their ancestors may have fought, even though they might all have the same genetic background, like Turks and Greeks, basically the same peoples, for, like, centuries, really. But get this, it's all about religion. It's all about nation-state identity. Same with, like, okay, another example, like Arabs and Jewish people, very similar background. Yes, some of the Jewish people or Israeli people may have a little bit more European admixture than, like, a Palestinian person, but when they take a DNA test, they're very closely related. They have Middle Eastern genetics, and there's some people that say, well, no, that's not true because it's Zionism saying that. Well, I'm not a Zionist, and I'm not a Pan-Arabist. I don't affiliate with any of these doctrines. But I know history, and I've looked at, like, genetics tests, and these people have a similar background, because they go back to similar Semitic people. And I know some people wanted to say no, that they don't, but yes, that they do. And I guess the only thing I want to say on my YouTube channel, what I want to make my YouTube channel about, and I know I'm supposed to be making a sandwich, but I kind of want to make this just a statement about how silly our society has become. Like, people are so obsessed with saying, oh, you're not as good because you're from that culture. You're not as good because you're from that culture. There are bad leaders, okay? There are really bad leaders. But I don't think that you should judge a whole people or boycott a Russian restaurant just because of something a dictator and his little cadre. And by the way, obviously in Russia, can anybody speak out against them? No. So you're like, and the irony is usually a Russian family left the former Soviet Union because they didn't want to put up with that kind of dictatorial mindset. And now they've come to America, and in 2022, they often might be people who wouldn't agree with Putin, but you're boycotting the restaurant. That's kind of embarrassing for you. Not for me, for you. I don't like racism. I don't like xenophobia. I don't care who does it. I've seen people of all ethnicities be a little xenophobic. It scares me, actually. Yes, people of all ethnicities. I've seen xenophobia and xenophobic comments, and they just really, they're gross. Don't do it. I know, like, it's just, like, conventional. And I guess, like, I just feel sad for the people, because I think young people, they don't think like that, but then their elders want them to think like that. Because kids, like, if you just let kids be kids, they're going to play with who they like, who their friends are. They wouldn't make, like, boundaries by these perceived differences. And yes, we're all different, but the irony is we could all, like, look different. But you'd be surprised, like, kids from two different cultures that, like, I don't know, Hot Wheels or tomatoes, they're going to be more likely to be friends than just two people from the same culture that might have completely different interests. Maybe this is just an off-topic thing for you guys, but I always like to think about history. I'm sick of xenophobia. Xenophobia can just go whatever. And that's another reason I think I'm just becoming more independent, like, on everything lately. I need to buy a box to take a sandwich. Although I kind of want to take salads with me more. Too chatty Cathy this morning. Too chatty Cathy I am. Anyway. Eat my tomato and say sayonara. Good night. Oh.